everyone, my name is Sam, and thanks for checking out this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification, and if you get to the end and enjoyed it, then give the video a thumbs up. Look at the title, continuation of last video. I accumulated a buttload of books in January, tried to justify it as some February, when realistically, they were basically all January. So this is part 2. So I think I covered like 30-ish books in part 1. Oh god, this is so bad. So I'm going to cover the last 30-ish now. And hopefully I have a bit more self-control in February. Firstly, a book I ordered in November finally showed up. Christmas Dinner of Souls by Ross Montgomery. Someone recommended to me this on Goodreads. I looked and it was not available in my library system and at all, or anywhere in the province actually. So it's so cute, and it's got the doors everywhere like the advent calendar. So thank you to whoever recommended that to me. And it's just so cute and tiny. So I missed it. Now it's not for Christmas. So I'm debating if I want to read it or just wait until next Christmas. It's small. It's cute. On a dark and lonely Christmas Eve in an ancient dining room of an ancient college, Louis the kitchen boy is helping to prepare a highly unusual feast. For tonight is the meeting of the secret club for those who despise children, warmth, happiness, and above all, Christmas. Each guest must compete to tell the most terrifying, gruesome tale they know. Who will win, and how will Louis ever get out alive? And sounds fun. Sounds like my kind of Christmas. I also picked up The Boleyn King by Laura Anderson, which conveniently happened to be on discount at Indigo. It's supposed to be a historical fiction retelling, alternative, whatever, if Boleyn had a son. And, you know, Henry didn't cut her head off. I also picked up a copy of Dracula by Bram Stoker. It was on sale with the Boleyn King one. And I actually don't own a copy of this. I remember trying to buy the Barnes & Noble edition, I think, a while ago, and then they sold out. So, haven't ever actually read this, so I'm curious to try and read it maybe around Halloween. And on the same sale, I picked up Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. I have watched both. I don't know if there's more than 2. I've watched 2 adaptations of these, and I freaking love them. There's the one with Sean Bean, like pre-Lord of the Rings, being murdered all the time. And then there's a more recent one with Richard Madden. And I know it's just supposed to be immensely, like, groundbreaking because they write a main character, female, who has, like, desires and acts on them, which, like, women didn't do that! And, first published in 1928, the novel challenged the social and sexual taboos of its time and was immediately banned as obscene, which, oh, actually, that's convenient. I think I have a prompt on something that, like, read a banned book, so, haha! Apparently I've watched so much BTS crack videos that I now make the noise that Suga does when he laughs. Haha! I also just discovered this book this month, so then I decided to pick it up when I was at a bookstore and saw it there. Sorcerer to the Crown by Zen Cho. I had never heard of it, and then they just did a cover reveal for the sequel. However, it's like several years ago. I think this book came out in 2013, I want to say. Sorry, this is copyright 2015, so that's still like 4 years now. I know that the sequel is, like I said, coming out. I know that they changed the cover. However, I really freaking like this cover, and it was all shiny in the bookstore, and I was all like, you haven't bought a book in a day. What's wrong with you, girl? Are you still lacking self-control? And I am. That's why I bought it. The Royal Society of Unnatural Philosophers maintains the magic within His Majesty's lands, but lately the once proper institute has fallen into disgrace, naming an altogether unsuitable gentleman as its Sorcerer Royal and allowing England's stores of magic to bleed dry. At least the society hasn't stooped so low as to permit women to practice what is obviously a man's profession. Yeah, really curious about this. I've heard nothing but fantastic things, so I'm very excited to get to it whenever I do get to it. I searched high and low at every bookstore I went to, and I finally found As She Ascends by Jodi Meadows. I had to go to Ontario to do so, but I did get it. I read Before She Ignites like a year plus-ish, or probably ago now. Really enjoyed it. It's a slower paced book, absolutely. There's a lot of politics in it, though. That is my jam, and I'm just digging these covers. They did the cover reveal for the 3rd one. Like I said, don't love people on covers, but A, it's not a white woman for once on a cover, but they like work these like elements like the dragon tails and whatever into it. And then the 3rd book has like glowing purple, and like purple is like high key my favorite color. I'm just really, really excited to see where this one goes because there's like lots of potential with how book 1 ended. And yeah, just just happy that I finally picked it up. Thanks to a coupon, I was able to pick up a Dragon Pearl by Yoon Lee for $5. This is Rick Riordan imprint. Also, Rick Riordan, today is Monday when I'm doing this, he released 3 new covers today. Whew, for that imprint, and one of them was the Rebecca Roanhorse's one, like, it was something to the sun. Yeah, and then there's another one that looks like Luke Cage is on it. I'm just so excited. Thank you, Rick Riordan. You're not watching this, but seriously, thank you to your imprint. You're giving us, like, legitimately diverse middle grade books, and the covers are so freaking pretty. I can't handle it. So, yeah, Dragon Pearl, I've heard pretty positive things about this. 13-year-old Min comes from a long line of fox spirits, but you'd never know it by looking at her. To keep her family safe, her mother insists that none of them use any fox magic, such as charm or shape-shifting. They must appear human at all times, which, let's be real, when you tell a middle grade-ish kid to not do something, heck, when you tell an adult not to do something, they're gonna go do it. So I'm assuming that's where that goes. And man, the cover is so pretty. I also, for $2, picked up Dark Metropolis by, Jacqueline Dollamore. It just sounded weird and kind of cool. People are disappearing. 16-year-old Thea Holder hears the rumors, but she can barely make ends meet, let alone worry about strangers who are going missing. Her mother is cursed with a spell that's driving her mad, and whenever they touch, Thea is chilled by the magic too. She must make a living for both of them in this sinister city where gangsters lurk and greed rules. She spends the nights waitressing in a decadent club, attending glitzy clientele, but when her best friend vanishes, all of a sudden, she's got to get involved. And I'm really curious about this one. It had, like, decent-ish okay ratings on Goodreads. The cover was just, like, really cool. Like, this name and then, like, the hand and, like, whew, don't love the face in the background, but I can deal with it for $2. I also picked up Night Books by J.A. White off of Book Outlet this month. I'm so excited. I've debated picking this book up several times in bookstores. And I was looking at this when I got it, like, the price thing in here. It says 21 Canadian, which I feel like is, like, kind of my very max that I'll pay for a middle grade book. But even when I was at a bookstore in Ontario, I was curious because I remember being like, I feel like I saw it more expensive in Indigo stores, and then I went, and there were definitely stickers on them. It's supposed to be like a Hansel and Gretel-y retelling and kind of creepy, and like, I don't know. I don't know when I'll get to it. Oh, I like that the table of contents is in black. I didn't notice that. So I think I'm probably going to wait until like the fall to get to this one, just because of it's like a creepy retelling of people being kidnapped and eaten, right? I also picked up Silver Stars by Michael Grant off of Book Outlet. I haven't read the first one, Frontlines, but I have it, and very excited to read it whenever I do read it. It's World War II fiction. I'm just guessing I'm going to like it, because every single person I know who's read it was like, what do you mean you haven't read it? This is your book. So I'm going to read it eventually. Hopefully I can start it this year. I was gifted by my friend Muriel for Christmas a copy of Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel. If you remember, I read this around Christmas via a library copy, and I just freaking loved, actually, the retelling of, I didn't notice the back till right now. So this is like the regular, like the retelling of the classic, and then these are the main characters in the sequel. So I'm very curious because they also left potential for maybe another book, and I love the purple ends. Like, that's just perfect. It's just perfect. And yeah, thank you, Muriel. I really wanted this. She also gifted me Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri, another book that I was really interested. A nobleman's daughter with magic in her blood, an empire built on the dreams of enslaved gods. And heard fantastic things about this one. So I'm very, very excited. And it also gives me a lot of faith that it's blurred by Chakrabarty, who wrote City of Brass, and absolutely loved that book. So very excited. I got good feelings about this. The author actually was really sweet enough to send me 2 books, but one of them, well, not one of them, my package mysteriously got sliced open in the mail by Canada Post, and the first book was missing. So this is book 2. The first book is called Book of Fire. I'll put the cover here. She was sweet enough to send me an e-copy so I can try and read it, but you are apparently supposed to be able to read book 1, or you can read book 2 without book 1. It'll make more sense, but you can still read them on their own. But I have the physical copy of City of Death by Michelle Kenny. Life in Afaral is no longer safe, but since August's disappearance and whispers of a ghost controlling Pantheon, meanwhile Talia stands torn between secretive twin Eli and best friend Max. Betrayal forces Talia to leave the sanctuary of her forest home as she pursues the stolen book of Arafal, book which could destroy the freedom, and she could fall in love into the wrong hands. And ancient city, she fights to protect the vulnerable, It's kind of got like all these like good like YA tropes all kind of like meshed into one. So I'm really curious. I'm going to try and read book 1 in the month of February actually. So I will keep you updated on how they are. I very happily pre-ordered and got my pre-order of The Paragon Hotel by Litsy this month as well. I just love her writing so much, so much. Of her books that I've read, I've only read one that didn't love, and I didn't hate that one either. It was because it was a Sherlock Holmes retelling, and I have a dog named Sherlock and a dog named Watson. I'm sensitive to that stuff. A gun mole with a knack for disappearing flees from Prohibition-era Harlem to Portland's Paragon Hotel. And that is all I really need to know. I love her writing so much. I love this freaking cover. It's so good. And then the underneath dust jacket. They did a good job on that too. Of like the mustard and like the purple. Oh, it's perfect. It's so perfect. Yeah. I'm just very excited that they keep releasing new Litsy Faye books. So I can continue buying them. I also picked up The Similars, by Rebecca Hanover. This is supposed to be like a contemporary mystery thriller, I believe, is like the way to explain it. Junior year just got a lot more cutthroat. This fall, 6 new students are joining the junior class of the elite Darkwood Academy, but they aren't regular overachieving teens. They're clones, and they're attending school alongside their originals. And I remember reading that being like, what? I need it! So, I bought it. I also picked a copy of Eeko North by Joanne Ruth Myers up. I remember reading the summary, like, months and months ago, and being like, this sounds kind of cool. And then the cover was revealed, and I was like, oh, cool. She dreamed of the world and the wolf who was trapped there. And once again, Rosamund Hudge blurb. Why is Rosamund Hudge blurbed on everything? But it's just supposed to be really good, interesting, not historical, fantasy. I also picked up The Dead Queen's Club by Hannah Kepin. My pre-order of this came in 2 weeks, I think, earlier. So it's a contemporary retelling of Henry VIII, which is literally all I wanted to know. And I was like, cool, pre-order, and here's my money. Take it, and give me the book. I cannot freaking wait to read this. I'm going to wait until the spring or the summer to read this one because it is a contemporary. I have a very good feeling about this because it has some of the historical elements that'll be able to parallel to. Well, I'm just so excited for this specifically. I don't know. No, I do know why. I'm just like insane. I don't think I've ever been this excited for a contemporary other than a Katie Henry book. I was also able to get a finished copy of Children of the Bloodlands by S.M. Eeko, and she also signed it for me because she was at the conference I was at. I haven't read Scions of the Fox yet. I remember she was there signing last year, and I remember walking by and seeing the line being like, I don't have time. Okay. So I want to try and like borrow it from the library or something because I do know I've seen it at quite a few of our libraries, and read it because I have a good feeling about this and I love the covers of the series, and the author's name is also Samantha, so like high five, girl. So I don't want to read this summary in case it kind of spoils anything in book 1. So Children of the Bloodlands by S.M. Eeko. I also picked up Whisper of the Tide by Sarah Tolkster off of Book Outlet this month. This is a sequel to Song of the Current, which I read last summer. Yeah, I think it was last summer. I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I'm really curious about where this is going to go. I do definitely think I want to reread Song of the Current, though, before I pick this up, just to remind myself, because I've read a lot of, like, piratey sailing ebooks lately, and, like, I just want to make sure my head's straight. Also, this map! Whoever designed this, you get 1,000,000 bonus points. It's beautiful. And, it's just so freaking pretty. Even, like, the ombre with the lightning bolt here, like, man, they did a good job on the design of this book. And, like, the under dust jacket being purple, too. And, like, the gold. Oh, it just looks so good. Good on you, Bloomsbury. Also off Book Outlet, I picked up Blood and Sand by C.V. Wick. I know that the sequel is coming out sometime in 2019. Actually, I think I looked yesterday and there was still no date. But it's supposed to be a Spartacus retelling with a woman that gets with lots of romance, though, in it. So I'm really curious about this one. I don't love the cover because of the person ombre that seems to me, but I bought it off Book Outlet, so I didn't spend an elaborate amount of money on it. So I'm going to give it a go because the historical fiction in me, I'm trash for this, like, twisting things, like with the Valiant book, with, like, twisting it with female gladiatrixes now, and, like, I'm just trash for this. I want to support this in any way possible. Despite the fact that I still haven't read book 1 and 2, I picked up book 3 in the Strange House series, Refuge for Masterminds by Kathleen Baldwin. Despite, like I said, I haven't read them. They're all off Book Outlet, so I don't feel terrible. I also just look at them and, like, these are going to be, like, good trash reads for me. Like, historical fiction trash with strong women, potentially, sort of thing. Very curious. I have a feeling I'll also binge the series. And I look at it and think summer, so maybe I'll do it this summer finally. I don't know. I also picked up The Girl King by Mimi Yu. Actually, I pre-ordered this. I'm so freaking excited about this book. She's going to be in the TBR and Beyond group in the month of February, I believe. Two sisters have the power to shape it, an empire, or tear it apart. I just like that there's a lot of focus on, like, at least on the summary, on sisters rather than a romance. And the cover is really cool. I also like the UK cover, like, and like the spine and everything, and then like the underdress jacket being like that bloody red. Like, I'm vibing with this. For a whole $5, I picked up The Paris Winter by Imogen Robertson. I've seen this cover a couple different places, and then it was on clearance at the book, not the book outlet, sorry, the Indigo I was at in Ottawa. So I was like, okay, I'm finally gonna buy you. I just know there's supposed to be a bit of historical fiction and some like painting or artsy elements, and that's all I really want to know. I'm gonna go into that like knowing that, and that's about it. So I'm hoping to try and read it before snow melts, so, you know, sometime before May. I also very happily received my pre-order of The Gilded Wools by Roshni Chokshi this month. Read this book if you haven't. I read an arc of it, and I freaking loved this book so much. It has all that heist element stuff, and the ragtag group elements, like those beautiful parts that we all seem to love about Six of Crows, and like, it's just, and then the historical setting with like France and Baroque, and like, oh, it's just so good, and there's like a mystery house, and the governor. Just read it. Also, the gold is all lifted on the cover, which, awesome. And then the underdress jacket, they put it on the hardcover. Yeah, it's just beautiful. Oh, I just noticed that there was an Eiffel Tower below the eye, too. Oh, man, they did a really good job on that. I'm blind. Yeah, read it. And she was in the TBR and Beyond group, too, so she, there's a recording on there of her visit. She's really insanely funny, too. And she's getting married, so on the off chance she watches this, have fun at your wedding. I know she was saying it's like 600 plus guests and like it's going to be chaotic. Try and enjoy it, girl. Okay, we're almost done, I promise. I picked up Empress of All Seasons by Emiko Jean. I am very curious about this. It's a fantasy standalone, and I've heard some really positive things about it. Not a ton of things, but everything I've heard is positive. In a palace of illusions, nothing is what it seems. Each generation, a competition is held to find the next generation's Honoku. The Honoku? I think that's how you say it. The rules are simple. Survive the palace's enchanted seasonal rooms. Conquer winter, spring, summer, and fall. Marry the prince. All are eligible to compete. All except yokai, supernatural monsters and spirits, whom the human emperor is determined to enslave and destroy. Maria has spent her life training to become an empress. Winning should be easy. And it would be if she weren't hiding a dangerous secret. She is a yokai, of course, with the ability to transform into a terrifying monster. If discovered, her life will be forfeited. As she struggles to keep her identity hidden, Marie's fate collides with that of Taro, the prince who has no desire to inherit the imperial throne, and Akiri, a half-human, half-yoko outcast. Torn between duty and love, loyalty and betrayal, vengeance and forgiveness, the choice of Marie, Taro, and Akiri will decide the fate of the Honoku in this beautifully written edge of your seat fantasy. I apologize if I missaid any of those words. They are definitely not English. After waiting and not getting it for Christmas, I went and picked up European... Oh, I thought I got off Book Outlet. I must have just paid it full price. Yeah. European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman by Theodora Goss. It is a beast. Like, a beast. It's like triple the size of the first book. But The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter was like this read that a friend of mine at the time, Amanda, recommended to me, and read it. I think it was Amanda, or maybe it was Jennifer. Someone recommended it to me. So I read it, really, really enjoyed it. I'm really curious. It's a lot of like fictional characters kind of brought back to life with Sherlock Holmes, and then like fictional characters, siblings or children, and all that stuff. So I'm not sure when I'm going to get to it. It's very big. Oh my god. Maybe it's a month where I'll read this when I take a month off from Outlander reads. I finally picked up my copy of The Sweetest Kind of Fate by Crystal Sistari. This is the second book in the Windy City Magic series. I read the arc of it and enjoyed it a fair amount, and then I forgot about it. And then I just remembered about it because they released the cover, I think, for the third book, or the swag for the third book, and I was like, oh my god, I still haven't bought it. So I went and bought it, and the third book is coming out, and I got the swag already for it. She sent it really fast. This is just a fun, like, light, kind of middle grade, kind of YA, contemporary fantasy with some witches. And I also picked up my pre-order copy of The Vanishing Star by Maureen Johnson. I want to read this in February, but I also don't want to read this in February. I kind of want to keep pushing it till like the day before the third book comes out, because Truly Devious did things to me, and then everyone was like, oh god, this book, everyone I know who's read it especially when my one friend specifically was like, oh, it's worse than, The Hangover is worse than the first book. And I was like, oh god, no. Historical fiction / contemporary / murder mystery. Really, really good. Loved the first one so much. Nothing Stays Buried for Forever. I also got my pre-order for Someday We Will Fly by Rachel Dwowskin. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year. It's set in Shanghai in 1941. This family flees Poland, I think it is. Her mother vanishes in Warsaw, so Lilia and her family flee Poland and the Nazis for Shanghai, a city also at war, occupied by the Japanese army. Shanghai is one of the few remaining places where Jewish families without visas can land safely. And it's interesting that I got this because Holocaust Memorial Day was a couple days ago, and the day after it just was by fluke. I was in Montreal with my friend Muriel, and we went to the Montreal Holocaust Museum. She didn't realize they had one. I found one. You're welcome. But it was interesting, though, because I remember being like, oh, this sounds interesting. Won it, pre-ordered it, got it. Haven't read it yet, obviously. And then there was a section in the museum about fleeing Germany without visas or, much more easily. Really, the only places that were taking Jewish families were Shanghai. And I was like, I legitimately, in my 4 years of undergrad in history and then my 2 years in grad school, I don't think I've ever read a book, or even real fiction or not, or even just like looked at documentaries about Jewish people fleeing to Asia. That's just not something I think I ever thought of. You just are always like, oh, the St. Louis, and they tried to get to North America, and we were douches and then let these people in. And that's really like where my brain stopped. So I'm insanely more curious about this now too, having just seen that section in the museum. I also picked up a White Stag by Cara Barbieri. I'm really curious about this one. It's supposed to be first in a trilogy. It was originally really popular on Wattpad, so they just decided to like publish it professionally. I know it's supposed to be dark and there are a bunch of trigger warnings, so please be aware if you're going to pick that up. There are some serious trigger warnings, just be aware. And it's a young girl, she's trying to find herself, but she's becoming more monster than human. We're almost done, I promise. I also picked up Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye. I pre-ordered this the last day that it was available for pre-order because it went on sale on Indigo. A Society of Assassins, an Empire of Magic, a World of Secrets. This is the author who wrote A Crown's Game. I loved A Crown's Game. The sequel was like, wasn't terrible. It wasn't as good as the first one, though. But this looks really cool. Like, I'm all here for this cover. And also always want to support Epic Reads because they are one of the few publishers that does not absolutely abuse the currency exchange system on books. Like, theirs is like $17.99 US equals $21.99 Canadian. I don't know what the actual conversion is, but it's like $3 or $4. Makes sense. It's like $1.20, I think, right now. And then you look at like, oh, I don't know if Bloomsbury has it on it. Oh yeah, Bloomsbury does. So I also picked up A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This isn't a go at her, but just like publishers in general. On this book, $18.99 US is equal to $24.99 Canadian. Honestly, go to a bookstore and literally just like pull books at random and look at the conversion rates that they put on all of them. It's insane. There'll be middle grade books that are $16 American and $25 Canadian. You're like, what? What conversion percentage are you using? Like, I don't think our exchange has ever been like that. Those are all the books that I managed to accumulate in the month of January. Lord help me trying to put these on the shelves, but I just really want to put them on the shelves because there's too many of them to just leave out. So yeah, those are the books I accumulated. Head over to my Goodreads. I have a shelf called Own if you want to see a book that you need help finding on Goodreads. Either way, check the description down below. I will link all of my social media there, and make sure to give me a follow. If you follow me, I will follow you back.